Mhm. Just find a comfortable seat and just close your eyes. And just take a couple of breaths and just kind of feel the room that you're in, the space that you're in. Allow your breath to come a little bit deeper. Maybe you can hear sounds outside of your house. Notice as you close your eyes, naturally your breath slows. Imagine breathing all the way down into your body, pausing naturally for a moment, and then feel that you can empty your breath out completely. With your eyes closed, feeling your interior space. Just imagine there's other people hearing the same words, deepening their breath, noticing their interior space. If we imagine everything that's man-made, first has its origins in what our capacities are anyway. We should feel connection to the whole world through our interior space. With your next inhale, flutter your eyes open. And then bring your feet in front of you. Place your feet about 2 hands length away from your groin. So it's the long ways. And then grab onto your shins. Can you make the echo go away? All right, grab onto your shins and then stretch your chest up, let your heart lift and drop your head back. Take another full inhale, and then with your exhale, bring your chin towards your chest and start to slowly roll down and let your head sink towards your feet. So your head can be anywhere from like your chin coming towards your chest to your skull is cradled in the curve of your insteps. And you want to kind of connect just to where your body is starting to resist, and that's where you hang out. So we're starting in butterfly pose, and this is the posture of transformation. And it's a perfect one to start our practice today. If you're joining us, just no pressure. Come into butterfly when you're ready. Take a couple moments to fiddle with your toes, to adjust your position. And then you really want to come into every yin pose with the 3 principles of yin. So the first principle is to find the right shape for your body. which you all look like you've done a good job at finding. And the second principle is to stay in that pose, creating softness and stillness. And then the third principle, I gave it away a little bit, but after you've created this softness and stillness, is to stay. So whether your head is lifted or if you're dropping your head down, wherever you are in your forward bend, see how much you can make it become softer. So just take a couple moments to observe how your thinking is today. Allow your next couple of breaths to allow you to observe how you're feeling, staying in the pose if you can. And then finally observe what's going on in your physical body. And with your next inhale, roll up. And we're going to do a little counter pose here. So you're going to bring your feet in front of you, take your hands back behind you, and then inhale, lift up your hips, let your head drop back if it's okay for your neck. If it's not okay for your neck, don't drop your head, just have your chin to your chest. And then stick out your tongue, look at your third eye, and with a whisper, roar like a lion. So you go, 2 more times, lift your hips up, and with your exhale, 1 more time, lift your hips a little higher, and then roll back down to the mat. And the first posture we're gonna do, or not the first posture, we already did the first posture. The next posture we're gonna do is you're gonna come into deer pose. So you're gonna have your left foot in front of you and your right foot behind you. To make it more gentle, you bring your heels closer to your midline. To make it more challenging, if you're bendy or a yoga teacher, you can take your, or dancer, yeah. You're gonna take your heels as far away from your center line as you can, as your knees allow. So somewhere in between is usually lagom, the perfect balance. And then lift up nice and tall, and with your exhale, you're gonna turn to your left, letting your right hand drape on the outside of your left knee, and allow your chin just to gently reach towards your left shoulder. Inhale, feel the height in your spine, and with your exhale, feel the twist. And then see how much you can soften this pose. So we're focusing today on the spleen and the stomach. Whenever we talk about organs in traditional Chinese medicine, and therefore in yin or acupressure, we talk about organs as pairs. So, hey, Lulu. So allow yourself to stay in the pose if you can. It's not important that you understand everything I say. But the spleen and stomach are the pair, and the stomach is the yang part of it, and the spleen is the yin part of it. So if you're just joining us, join us in deer pose. So most of us kind of know what the stomach does. And the spleen is a little bit more confusing. In Swedish, that's the mjälte. I think it's very similar in German. But the spleen is the biggest task it has in our body is it's connected to timing. So while our stomach digests the food, it's our spleen that takes the nutrients from the food and helps distribute the nutrients at the right time. Take 10 more full deep breaths here. And after your 10th breath, if you're not there, you can kind of fake it. Turn back to center, and you're just going to stretch your back leg back behind you so that your front knee, you're coming into swan in yin yoga. In the more traditional yoga, this is pigeon pose. And so you want to make sure that your left knee is a little bit outside of your left hip, not right in front of your groin. And then you may find that you need to put either your blanket or a block underneath your hip. If your butt's like up in the air, you can bring the ground to you by putting something there. Some people don't think it helps them. You get to decide. And we're going to stay lifted here. We often go right down, lie down right away, but you want to stay lifted here, and you can feel that you're massaging into your kidneys here, especially the right hand side. So one of the biggest themes of the stomach and spleen is that it's our capacity to digest food or to digest ideas and integrate them into who we are and how we are. So with traditional Chinese medicine, we're always looking at the different layers of effect. We see how something is in the body. We notice how it is in our emotional life or our energetic life, and then our emotional life. And we can even notice how our thinking is affected, our capacity to think is affected. And in traditional Chinese medicine, as part of the modality of the complete human being, there's even contemplated how things affect you spiritually. And in this system, it's a dynamic system. So as soon as you change one part, everything kind of shifts. So you've noticed yourself, like with yoga, for instance, you can move your body to change your mind. I mean, how cool is that? You know this. Or you also know that, like, you know, for instance, if you haven't eaten in a while, like your mood can really crash. I mean, for myself, I get hangry. You know, I get kind of like flip something. But we know all this already, but this is a reminder of how I can reminder right now in these times that, you know, if we're feeding ourselves just with fear and doubt and worry, it's not going to nourish our capacity to feel like ourselves. Or if we see a world out there that's going nuts, which it is, but we try to keep it externalized and not take anything in, then that distancing actually weakens our capacity. So just like we want to eat good food, we want to make sure that we have the possibility to digest that food and really take the nutrients from that food and let the waste products leave us. So we get the benefits of the food and we have the power to let go of the stuff we don't need. So the spleen and stomach, all the kind of imbalances or challenges that happen around these two organs have to do with this integration, the integration of the outside world into who I am. So take another full, nice breath, and then start to walk your hands forward, draping your chest forward, letting your head come down. It's wonderful to have something underneath your head if that's comfortable for you. Kind of make the small adjustments that suit your body and your needs. So when our spleen and stomach are healthy and the meridians connected to them are doing well, we experience a sense of integration where the outside world is in support and in harmony with the inside world. And when our spleen and stomachs are out of whack, out of balance, emotionally we can get kind of stuck in worrying and allowing the worry to take over. In it mentally, when our spleen and stomach are out of balance, there's a tendency towards dogmatism, to stick to these really rigid ideas without really digesting them, without integrating them into your biography. So some of our dear teachers, Rui, he always brings this example of to change this phenomenon of like, oh no, this is happening to me, into, not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? And just this switch of this small word, instead of two, replacing it with four, a whole different realm of possibility becomes available. You're coming towards the end of this posture, so I know the intensity has been climbing. Notice how it feels on your inhale. Notice how it feels on your exhale. And then with your inhale, lift up your chest, walk your hands towards you, and then just roll to your side and find a way, wiggle around, move around, and then just come to lie on your belly. And you can lie down, you can stack your forearms and put your forehead onto your arms so that your neck can remain neutral. So this is kind of an upside down Shavasana. That's not the Sanskrit name. So let yourself just settle and be still for a moment after you've come out of the posture. You got it, Rosie. And just notice we've gone very intensely into one side, especially the hips and the hip flexors and the front of your hip and the front of your thigh there. And before we go into the other side, we're going to transition into Sphinx. So slide your elbows in and bring your elbows just slightly in front of your shoulders. Your elbows are shoulder distance apart. If this is too intense, you can always slide your elbows more forward so your ribs come onto the ground. If it's not enough, you can also put the blanket underneath your forearms. You want to feel the pressure kind of pooling in your lower back, and this is a healing pressure. Your hips are being, relaxing to the ground, coming into find the shape, find the stillness, and then commit to staying there. So as the world is going through, I've been talking about environmentally, I've been talking about global weirding for a long time. And it comes as no surprise in a way that that's extending to the ecology of our culture. I don't know about you, and maybe it has to do a little bit with what my age is. I'm 45, and in my you know early 20s, it was all about Y2K and this like imminent crash because all the computers are going to fail, and I was banking on it. I mean, made a lot of poor choices thinking that was going to happen. Like there was going to come this like destructive wave or something. But that points more to how in my interiority I've been waiting for this kind of global event. I never imagined it would unroll the way it is unrolling, of course. There were no details. But I feel that there's something in me that has been just waiting for the breakdown to happen. I mean, part of why we practice, why we, you know, aim to become who we see the world needs. And we have this very strange experience. I know a lot of you are in Switzerland here, some of you in England, but us here in Sweden, we have this weird combination where, on one hand, things have gotten quite quiet, but we haven't lost any of our civil rights, other than we can't gather in groups larger than 50. Now, of course, in a year, we will have insight to what the right choices were, as we do in our own lives, as we can do in history. But for many people, their outside world has changed extremely. But before I talk more about that, let's come into the next posture. So lower down, wiggle your hips side to side, and you're in the privacy of your own home. So groan and moan and maybe cry. Let the sounds move through you to help emotions move through you. It's nice. I see some people wiggling their feet side to side. That's really effective too. And then we're going to find our way to deer pose. So this time we're going to have the right heel in front of your groin, left heel behind you. I find this pose very elegant. And we have deer. I can, talk about a great place to be stuck, but outside we can see deer on the field nearly every day, and they're quite delicate and dainty. So lift up nice and tall and turn to your right, draping your left hand over your knee. So even though this is quite an active pose for a yin class, see where you can release and relax. So lift up tall and with your exhale, twist, minimizing your effort, keeping it soft. For the past close to 20 years, I've been going to yoga classes and hanging out with different sorts of yogis. And in the sutras, in the ancient texts, there is always this emphasis of we are all one. And if nothing else, I feel like this pandemic is gifting us this sight of the fact that we're all connected and no one is outside of this. No one is actually separate. I mean, the way it's affecting humans throughout the world is undeniable. And it's as if we're seeing our whole earth like one body. So if we think about this physicality of the earth and that it's not separate anymore, there's no outside of it. That would be like our body. Yes, there's an outside of it, but I'm constantly taking the outer world into me. That's how I stay alive. Now turn back to center and stretch your left leg back, reaching it back. Let your hips be squared forward, your right knee just slightly to the right of your right hip. Feeling if you need to put something underneath your buttocks, feel free. And then just stretch out your left foot so it's not hooked, sickled, like a duck. Lift up your chest and stay lifted here for a while. Maybe feeling the warming squeeze in your left kidney. Now, this isn't like the first, or maybe it is, but it is not really the first realization of how global we are, because energetically, we've already been dipping into it. Think about what the internet is. It's an energetic network. It is accessible from so many parts of the world. And it facilitates expression of emotions. And we've even seen how the anonymity of the internet often can help people express more grossly or more polarized by the safety of anonymity. But now we're also seeing that, different impulses can happen, whether it's a yoga class right now or different prayer circles or humanitarian efforts. But this idea of internet, it was born somewhere. And it's not some arbitrary genius idea one person had and then the whole world kind of followed in line. but it is an echo, perhaps, of something. Oh, me too, Flop. Something you can have, that we have a connection. We know that we're interconnected. And in some ways, this energetic truth was true long before the technology of the internet was possible. If we look at how different civilizations invented similar things at the same time, there was one point in my life where I was pretty, you can start to walk your hands forward and drape your chest forward, but where I was pretty math geeky. It was a long time ago. But when you're studying math, especially, you can actually, there's evidence, or there's yeah, histories that different civilizations discovered the same things around the same time. Or maybe let's bring it a little bit closer to the present day. In the 1960s, mid to late 60s, early 70s, there was no internet. There weren't even cell phones, but there were telephones. But there was a worldwide movement of liberation. It didn't just happen in one like neighborhood. It wasn't like, oh, San Francisco, like everyone like all of a sudden had this realization, I'm not going to follow my father's footsteps. I'm going to find my own way in the world. I'm not going to get married like my parents want me to. I'm going to be independent. You know, there was an explosion of change. You can also see it in religions and religious spiritual doctrines. But this explosion of change, this wave of revolution, the origins of it were in separate individuals all over the world, where in the interiority, in the inner space of their being, they were so called to not do what their dad did, to grow their hair out, to abandon traditions that had been held for centuries. This came not from some news blurb or some meme. It came from this space of being connected to our inner selves. There was a point where it just didn't work anymore. You couldn't just follow the tradition blindly. There was like no Facebook to organize, like, okay, everyone, like, grow your hair out, but this is what it means, that you should be radical, that you should preach free love. I mean, this happened in all over the world, in different communities, in different expressions even. And while now we can be like, oh, well, we have the internet, and so we can be also connected, we've always been this connected. And technology that is far more advanced and less toxic. All right. Start to walk your hands back towards your chest. And this time, roll out over to your right and come onto your back and lie into Shavasana. Just lie still, feel that you were a little bit more balanced, perhaps. You can close your eyes. Your palms can be open to the ceiling, helping your shoulders open. And then hug your knees up to your chest and roll back and forth on your spine a couple of times. And then roll up into, just roll up and then come into a seated position. And you're going to tuck your toes under. Now, for some people, like I can tuck my toes under like this. I might have to help my pinky toes a little bit, but I could stay here for like 20 minutes and like keep on talking and not really notice my toes. I mean, yes, when I come out, they'd be hurting, but it doesn't bother me so much. But for other people, this can be really intense. So you want to have just the right amount. Like being uncomfortable is great. Like be uncomfortable in your yoga practice so you can be fabulous off your yoga mat and the rest of your day. Like be able to effort and struggle and awkward. But if you're in sharp pain, like you can't remember your name or you feel like your feet are burning, then that's too much. So find the right amount. And we're not going to stay here for 5 minutes. You'll be happy to hear. Let your hands settle down. So often when I teach about the spleen in the stomach, I end up ranting about food rights. Some of you have heard it all before. Because really it's just like the living quality of the food that we eat that allows our life forces to flourish and be free. And when we eat food that doesn't have life in it, we can't get enough sustenance from it. So we feel often hungry and incomplete. Okay, if Lulu's done, we're all done. Come forward. Now slap out your feet. And then rock back onto your feet, and stretch your ankles, tops of your feet. And then we're going to come lying onto your right hand side. We're going into pulling the cat's tail. Yes, this is actually a real yoga pose, a yin pose. And so you want to you can just bring your your right hand underneath your head. So it kind of looks like you're ready for the beach. Oh, hey. Yeah. So you're just being supported there. And then you're going to take your top leg and stretch it straight out from your hip. So a lot of times it kind of wants to shy away. And if it's too intense, you can also bend your knee here so that your knee is straight out from your hip and not below your hip. And then you're going to take your top arm and you're going to reach back and you're going to bend you're not lying down yet. Bend your bottom leg and grab onto your bottom foot. You're a natural, you know this pose then. Cool. Now, this might be just enough for you, or if you have a little bit more flexibility and you want to add more of a twist, you can allow your shoulders to relax down into the ground. Do you got that one, Pear? Yeah? Yes. Beautiful. So you can't quite see it, but he's holding his foot behind him, his legs stretching out. And the modification, if necessary, is to bend this top knee. And you can decide which one feels better. So with our stomach and our spleen, as I said, when they're out of balance, it actually supports worry, where we get stuck in our head and we start tripping on all the things that can go wrong. And in this time right now, that is so seductive. It's so easy There's so many different ways to go with it. However, when we start to worry excessively, it also starts to be taxing for our spleen and stomach. And so that can be kind of a bad feedback loop. So no, we start worrying and then like our spleen and our stomach aren't working so well. And then our spleen and our stomach aren't working so well. So it makes it much easier to get worrying and kind of compulsive in our worrying rather than lifting our thinking up to actually imagine a future we want to be part of. And when our spleen and stomach are healthy, that is really this earth quality is what supports clear thinking. So you can imagine a little bit like, if our body is like the house, then our thinking is kind of the roof on the house. So we want to cultivate health in our body so we can continue to be liberated in our thinking and kind of pursuant and active in our thinking. So on one hand, you have when our spleen and stomach are suffering, you have this excessive worry. But on the other hand, you can have a lack of digesting ideas and where you just latch on to certain ideas and start to be dogmatic about them. Both of those extreme don't allow you to bring your gifts into your thinking, to be creative in your thinking, to direct your own attention. And then roll back onto your belly, loving the space to moan and groan, cry, giggle. And then roll onto your left hand side. Stretch your top leg, your right leg straight out in front of you. If you have to negotiate the bed or the bookcase, work it out. And if you're really tight in your hamstring, you might want to bend your right knee. And then with your hand propped underneath your head, this might be as far as you want to go. Or maybe you want to go a little deeper and let your shoulders come down, grabbing onto your bottom foot, feeling the stretch, exactly, feeling the stretch in. So you're grabbing onto your left foot, pulling it to the buttocks, and your right leg still coming straight out of your hip. Yeah, Allie, I was talking to you. Okay, great, awesome. So wherever your edge is. So we all have different biographies and different bodies to go with those biographies. But what we have in common is being able to work at our edge. So notice, take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out and feel your body settle into the pose. So this is from a Cree prophecy. Cree is a Native American Indian tribe. When the earth is sick and dying, there will come a tribe of people from all races who will put their faith in deeds, not words, and make the planet green again. When the earth is sick and dying, there will come a tribe of people from all races who will put their faith in deeds, not words, and make the planet green again. This theme has been one that's been reoccurring for me, and especially in the past 2-3 weeks. I get a lot of energy and joy from reading the good Dr. Rudolf Steiner, and he too spoke of this new race of people, or a new group of people that are from all races, a people of the future who will find identity with being of the earth and not being of a nation. As we see around the world, different countries exercising their power in different ways with the guise of protection, it feels easy to feel separated from everybody. Oh, our country's not doing it like that country, or we're not doing it like they're doing it. But I encourage you to keep searching for this interior connection, for this inner space, this interconnectedness. Now roll back onto your spine. Moan and groan, wiggle around a little bit. And while that last posture was partially twisty, we're gonna close our class with one final twist. So we're just gonna make it very simple. You got it, Leona. You're gonna hug your knees up to your chest. Take your arms out into a T. And then slowly drop your knees to your left-hand side. Make sure your knees are as high as your hips. That way your spine twists. And either look straight up at the ceiling or turn your face towards the right. So I've heard two stories, very, very similar, from two different sources. And the latest one I heard from Carolyn Mace. The first one I heard told to me by a Kundalini teacher. But the recounting that Carolyn Mace gave was she met a woman who told her the story of this that happened to her. And this woman told her that she was in this horrible car accident. and her body was a mess, and she remembers being outside of her body. She remembers looking down and seeing the car and its metal all crumpled in, blood everywhere. And she was awake to hearing what all the other cars around her were thinking. Hug your knees back to center. I'll kill cliffhanger there. Hug your knees in and then just slowly let your knees drop to the right. And she could hear the different people like thinking like, oh, thank God that isn't me. Oh, am I gonna make it to my gym class? Or this is now gonna make traffic stop, or oh no, what happened? This is horrible. And then she heard this one woman's voice praying. And she looked around. As I was saying, she could feel it. She was hovering above her body, and she looked around and she saw this beam of light like going right into one of these cars. And she was like, I wonder who that is. And before she knew it, she was sitting in the passenger seat next to this woman. And the woman was praying for her. And as the woman prayed for her, she heard what she says as her angel saying, now it's time to go back. Now is the time to go back to your body. She recalls how this beam of light was a source of energy for her. And before she returned to her body in her hyper surrealistic state, she managed to look at the license plate of that car. She tells of being comforted by her angel that it was going to take a long time, but she was going to get through it. And months went by, and finally she was well enough to actually go, and she hunted down this woman, looked up the license plate, and came and brought her a bouquet of flowers and thanked her and said, I don't think I would have been able to make it if it wasn't for your prayer. So to not belittle the capacity that we have from our interiority to positively and dramatically affect this world. Bring your knees back to center. Stretch your body long, maybe taking your legs as wide as the yoga mat. Maybe doing any other moves you want to do before coming into Shavasana. If your lower back hurts, you can always have your knees bent and take your feet as wide as the yoga mat and let your knees fall back together. Set yourself up for Shavasana, palms open to receive. Yeah, so just let your knees fall to, if your lower back hurts, you just have your knees, you have your feet as wide as the yoga mat and you drop your knees together so you feel that it's really passive and relaxing. It shouldn't irritate your back at all. Great, perfect, Bia. Yeah. And then close your eyes, and I'm gonna be with you here, and I'll bring you out of Shavasana in about 5 minutes. So let your eyes close or cover them. Start to invite the breath back to the edges of your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe smile for something you're grateful for. And then with your inhale, stretch your arms up over your head, reach your feet away from your, careful with pinning, reach your feet away from your hands. And then roll up into a ball and roll onto your left-hand side. And just take a moment and feel the vitality and the life in you. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position, either sitting on your heels or sitting with your legs crossed in front of you. And close your eyes and just take a couple moments to notice your body, notice the room, and feel your capacity to stretch your awareness, even maybe bringing it to these strangers that we practice the same class with today. Bring your hands to heart center. And we're going to close with one final Om. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And then make some noise. Yeah, such a great job. Thank you so much for being here with me. And thank you, Pear, for doing all the technical stuff and modeling. Very cool.